All right, drop those clocks and grab your socks. All right, so a friend of mine is getting ready to go on a summer trek. I think he's going to go on a 7-mile through hike. He's going to do that ultralight backpacking that people seem to be fond of. Can't imagine why. Good luck staying warm. Good luck getting any sleep, but whatever. Power up, brother. Anyway, so he asked me my advice on the best kind of socks for that kind of a hike. And first I gave him sort of a flippant answer, kind of made a joke out of it because, well, if nothing else, I'm a cynical old bastard. But then I thought about it and I realized, no, he has a legitimate question, and I'm uniquely qualified in a sense to articulate the answer. I've learned a lot about socks from the school of hard knocks, so to speak. I've been a hiker for a long time. I've suffered blisters and toenails falling off and boots full of blood and frostbite, and you get the picture. Anyway, over time I've kind of dialed in my footwear. I think I've got it dialed in now. I think it's about where it needs to be. Sometimes I get it wrong depending on weather conditions, but usually I get it right. So I gave him my best recommendation for both boots, for both hiking boots, as well as socks. And then he asked me, Chakachi, stay back. then he asked me why, and that was quite a difficult question to answer, because I'd reached the point where I am through an evolutionary process, and I hadn't really thought about it. It was just it was the results of trial and error over the years until I got it right. I was a slow learner, but I finally figured it out, I guess. So I had to think about it. I gave him kind of a bumbling answer, but it made me think. I think now I've gathered my thoughts enough that I can articulate it in a concise and clear way. So before we talk about socks, we probably should have as context a little conversation about shoes, because I don't think you can really converse about one without kind of bringing into the conversation the context of the other. So, if you are inclined to go on short hikes, stroll through the park, flat trails, that kind of thing, you have no problem wearing this kind of a flat trail runner shoe. I like Columbia brand. By the way, I'm not promoting any kind of brand in this video. I'm not selling something. I'm just showing you my personal preferences. I have other brands of shoes, North Face and whatever. And for this kind of trail shoe, unless you buy something really cheap, they all seem to be pretty good. Like I said, these are for short hikes. These are for short hikes and on relatively flat conditions, in my opinion. When you're hiking on a steeper trail, like up here in North Idaho and western Montana, we hike mountain trails. We're going through streams and up rocky mountainsides, and the trails are rarely anything close to being flat. So I'd like to have some ankle protection. So for me, my go-to boot is Solomon's. Again, not promoting any brand here, but I bought a lot of Solomons over the years. I prefer them not too high, just over your ankle, so you have good ankle support. All the Solomons have really solid soles, so you're hammering rocks, you're not going to have bruised feet after a few days of that. And then good traction. If you're on, you're scrambling, you're doing some scrambling up a granite mountainside, you have good grip with this kind of boot. And then insulation from the cold. You have relative insulation from the cold. You have relative insulation from the heat, which, even up here in Idaho in the summertime, when you're crossing a scree field, going up a mountain, the rocks get really hot. I mean, just roasting hot. You could fry eggs on them. So when it's if it's a little bit, well, let's see here. So Salomon's, that's my go-to boot. I have I had a friend that wanted me to try. He's an Italian friend. Wanted me to try these a whatever this is, some European boot. He swears by them. The price tag's pretty hefty. They look like good boots. Honestly, I don't see any significant advantages over Salomon's at this point in time, but I'm going to give these a whirl this summer. Just to try them out, because keep an open mind. That's what I say. But again, not promoting any particular brand. When it gets cold, when there's snow on the ground, I like my insulated Salomon's are my go-to. Steve, my buddy Steve, he's a Keen fan. Whatever, do what you want. Chooses the brand you like, the style you like. I'm going to give these Keen insulated boots a whirl when we start getting up hiking in the high mountain snow. Steve has a pair just like this, same style, same brand that he swears by, and he seems to have warm feet sometimes when I don't. So I'm gonna give him a try. Then if you really get into the cold polar, sub-zero kind of situation, you want to prepare for it. Baffins, you wouldn't want to hike 20 miles in those, but in the conditions that you'd be wearing these, you wouldn't get 20 miles anyway. You'd be lucky to get 2 or 3 before your legs wore out. All right, enough talk about shoes. Let's talk about socks. So what's the purpose of socks? Why do we even wear them? Well, a few years ago, I was up in northern Norway in the Arctic. I was trekking up there, and I came across in this remote trail this guy, this Norwegian that did traditional Norwegian bushcraft, and I thought, wow, this is really cool. It was like a time machine, and I stopped and was talking to him, and I looked at his boots and immediately saw, aside from the fact that they were really, cool looking, Norwegian handcrafted Viking boots, the leather seemed really thin, and I thought, wow, this ground, because the ground was really rocky, really cold. Yeah, go figure, in the Arctic. And I asked him, so, don't the rocks and the sharp sticks and things sticking out of the ground, don't they hurt your feet? He said, no, that's, the Vikings, for the Viking footwear, it was all about socks. And he took off his boot and he showed me his sock. It was woven out of some kind of fibrous grass, and the padding on the bottom of it was thick. It was maybe thicker than, no, it was about as thick as I would say the average hiking boot sole, and then it was woven in a way that there was a lot of give, so your feet could move around, and it looked quite comfortable. And he said, when he first tried them on, he had a little problem with once in a while if he didn't weave it right, if there was a knot or something in the wrong place, there would be a pressure point, or you might get a blister or something. But he said once he got used to them, he prefers them to, modern boots and socks. I think it's a bunch of baloney, but, he seemed to like them and they look cool. But, he gave me like an informal lecture on footwear and socks on top of a mountain in the Norwegian Arctic. And so to remember those points, I tried to condense them down into a bullet point list. Why do we wear socks in the first place? So socks are for secondary protection in addition to our outer footwear. They provide an insulation layer. In the Arctic especially, you need that. They provide padding for the obvious reasons. They provide moisture wicking. So if your feet get wet or you're sweating, you you don't have soggy feet. You're not so inclined to get blisters. And day after day after day, if you have wet socks, yeah, you can have some serious foot problems, including trench foot for long durations of time. And socks also reduce the amount of friction between your skin, the skin of your feet, and the inside of your boot, right? So makes you wonder, why once in a while when you see these people who are wearing shoes with no socks, and I'm not talking about people at the beach walking around in flip-flops or something like that. I'm talking about or you put on your sister's bunny slippers to go out and check the mail. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what I'm talking about, these weirdos with wearing their shoes through Walmart with no socks on. Yeah, well, it's disgusting, first of all. I guess I should add that to the list. Hygiene. Change your socks, man. Try hiking in a pair of shoes without wearing socks. You can do that for a couple 100 miles and tell me your feet don't smell like dead animals. So yeah, let's add hygiene to the list. But anyway, we digress. We're getting too far down the rabbit hole, aren't we? Chakachi. That's right. So I'd say the number one choice in choosing the right sock is the fabric first. That's the first thing you need to consider. So cotton is rotten, first of all. Cotton is rotten, even if you have some really stylish, very fashionable green dinosaur, kind of pattern on it. Sorry, cotton is rotten for long distance hiking, I would say, in general. And the reason that is, in fact, we used to have a hiking friend who would always say, cotton is death. Well, cotton's a great material for t-shirts and bed sheets and things like that. It's really, really soft and durable and absorbs moisture. That's exactly why it's not good for long distance hiking, because it holds the moisture against your feet, and you're more prone to blisters. Your feet will get colder if you're in a cold situation. And if you wade through a stream, and then you really get up high and get into the snow and your feet get cold and you need to dry your socks, well, it's going to take a while to dry cotton. So cotton in general, again, if we're talking about a stroll through the park, all right, wear some cotton socks. They're fine. I have cotton socks. I'm not a snob or anything like that. I have cotton socks. They're fine for a walk through the park, whatever. And in fact, some of the cotton synthetic blends are pretty good. They combine cotton with nylon or polyester, and that provides kind of a wicking effect for the cotton sock, so it's not quite as bad. But the material of choice is merino wool. So merino wool is actually comes from a sheep called a merino sheep. I think they're from Australia, and the wool is softer and not so abrasive as normal wool. Any of the old timers that wore old U.S. military socks, the old green socks that felt like you had scouring pads on your feet, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, they were awful. They're so abrasive and so itchy. You go on a road march and yeah, all you're thinking about is how itchy your feet are. So yeah, sure, they wicked moisture, but yeah, you felt like you had a couple of Brillo pads wrapped around your feet as you're marching. So merino wool is soft. It's soft, but still has the same qualities: good insulation, padding, moisture wicking, idiosyncrasies as other kinds of wool. And then perhaps I'm wrong, but I've never seen 100% merino wool sock on the market. I think I presume it's a base extrapolation that wool in general is not really a pliable kind of fabric. It doesn't have a lot of elasticity to it, and so I'm guessing that they add some synthetic blends to the to the typical merino wool sock to give it more stretch. The type of socks that I prefer, I believe they're 80% 20% ratio of merino wool to synthetic materials. And then also on the market you can find these days a lot of 100% synthetic, like nylon, polyester kind of materials for socks. And some of them, they're singing some, proud songs. I don't know. At this point in time, I have my socks dialed in. I'm not, changing horses at this point in midstream. All right. So one of the considerations of your sock choice is the height of the sock. So, okay, this might be a bone of contention. Chocolate cheese, stay up here. Stay there. This might be a bone of contention. But you know what? I don't mind if you're offended, be offended. So these days, I see that it's fashionable to wear these low-cut socks, and you see people at the gym with their, strutting around. Look at my muscles. You know what, Bruno? Don't strut in front of me if you're wearing little girls' socks. So this is what I'm talking about. These low-cut things. You know what? I know a real man doesn't need to have his socks validated, but I'm just saying, you go sporting your little sister socks. Don't expect me to be impressed, but not that you need my validation. But here's where I'm getting at. See, a typical boot that I hike with is not a very. I don't like them to go too high up my ankles because after 8 miles, 10 miles, something like that, they start to rub me the wrong way. I like to have them about that cut. You don't want your sock to be below the top of your boot for obvious reasons. If you're walking along and you're getting constant friction, and that's one of the friction points in your boot when you walk is the top of the boot. If your top of your boot is rubbing into your leg, man, good luck with that hike. Hope it's only a couple miles because you're going to be in pain. Wear a sock that goes above your boot. You want socks that are a little bit higher than the top of your boot. Well, because sometimes you kick up debris, and you don't want it going down your sock. But the main reason is saggy socks. If you have to stop, I had in the past had some guy ridicule me for wearing old man socks. Oh, look at your old man socks. Well, I'm an old man, but and then every 10 minutes he's stopping on the trail to bend over to pull his socks out of his boots. Yeah, well, what a dumb old man. You function over form, function over fashion, I guess I should say. It's not a fashion show. You want a practical sock that protects your foot. So choose a sock that's the right height. Most importantly, the cushioning and fit of the sock. So if you wear a really thin sock, you're not going to have a lot of cushioning. You're not going to have a lot of friction protection. You're not going to have a lot of wicking. So you want it to be thick enough that it pads your foot, absorbs the moisture, and reduces the friction, so it doesn't rub as much inside of that boot. What that means depends on you, depends on your foot, depends on the fit of your boot or shoe. So it's more of an art than a science, I guess. So you're gonna have to dial that in. There was a time when I thought, oh, thicker socks, that'll be more comfort because I'll have more padding. Boy, no, that's wrong. So yeah, heat logic. Boy, that seems logical to me. Look at those babies. Man, you could fall asleep in those. Sure, but when you put them on, you've lost. Your feet grow half a shoe size, or some of the really thick ones I have that go with these Baffin boots. Some of the really thick ones, you're probably a good shoe size or shoe size and a half bigger than your normal foot size. So you want to choose the fit and the thickness of the sock, to your liking. I can't tell you. I can't dictate that to you. I'm not your foot. Your foot's going to have to tell you. So here's a typical kind of thing so here, this looks like a fantastic sock, right? It might be. Haven't tried. I'm going to try it on maybe a day hike. You know, it's 57% cotton, and then the rest of it various types of synthetic threads. You know, they claim that the synthetic threads act like wool and wick away the moisture. I'll give it a try, but I'm not going to go on a 20-mile hike with these things. Not going to happen. I'm not. Now, you want to know. You go with what you know. Same kind of thing here. Cotton polyester blend. Yeah, these look down. These Colombian ones, same thing. Soft cotton blend. Okay, isn't that nice? Oh, so soft. It must be wonderful. No, again, I'll wear those on a day hike. Not taking them on a long hike, because yeah, you don't want to be out there 10 miles in and realize you got to go 10 miles back with blisters on your feet, right? So here's another example of that, the different kinds of blends. So merino wool socks, that's my choice. Merino wool, 80%, 20% synthetic blend. Now I've had various types and various brands of merino wool socks, so, and they were just fine, but the ones that I finally settled on that are just right for me, fit my feet well, fit my ankles well, fit my heels well, and just the perfect thickness for most of my boots, and wear so nice. You know, they're these darn tough brand socks. Looks like they're made in Vermont, USA. So you know, the Vermonters, they know their cold weather, but they've done a good job with this. And this is an 80%, yeah, 80%, you know, merino wool with polyester and nylon, I presume synthetic threads. But these things are awesome. You know, I dug up a pair that these probably have. I was about ready to toss these. These probably have, I bet they have 200, 300 miles on them of rough hiking, wading through creeks and that kind of thing, and they're just fine. But so yeah, this is the sock that of my choice. Again, I'm not here to promote that particular brand, but I guess I am in essence. I would suggest, you know, try getting a few different types of merino wool socks. Try them in your shoes. See what you think. You make your own choices. One thing I guess I should mention, yeah, these are a little bit spendy. I think seems to be like they're like 27, 28 bucks for a pair of socks, which is, you know, I know it's like what the heck, you know, by comparison, this thing probably costs, you know, 20 bucks. I don't know. So, but you're not going to wear 20 bucks worth of crappy socks on a long hike. If you're going to do a through hike, so to my friend who asked, you know, what socks do I recommend? Darn tough. That's the sock. Merino wool, perfect thickness, perfect fit for your feet. You're not going to go wrong, and they're not going to sag. And if there's one thing I can't stand in this world, it's saggy socks, right? All right, Chakachi. All right, we are out of here. We're done with socks. We're done with socks. Let's go talk about something else.